I used to pull my sister in a wagon, back in my bike, and she'd fall out every single time. It wasn't quite the warm, fuzzy story that they had there. So I want you to open up, each and every one of you to open up today, that everybody who's ever crossed your path, whether it be your sister, your brother, a friend, the person that you loved, the person that you didn't love, the person that drove you nuts, was not there by accident but by a divine appointment. That everybody who's ever crossed your field was there for a divine reason and something to bring to you, maybe a different perspective, a different way of looking at life. And look back at your history, you either received that gift or you didn't receive the gift. Either you were able to take that gift and to look a different way, or you didn't. But you know what? One thing that every human being on the planet has is an opinion. Have you noticed that? We're not going to talk about politics too much today, but we all have opinions. And here's what the context or the foundation is for the talk today. Please read this with me. It's a narrow mind which cannot look at a subject from various points of view. You ever notice we live in a very paradoxical universe? Two seeming opposites that look like they're in war, in conflict with each other, can exist within the same thing as both being true. If we are paying attention and staying awake to the universe and what's happening, and we look deeper beyond the surface of our humanness, our ego-ness, we can eventually come to the place where we say that two truths that look like they are counter to each other, or antithetical to each other, can absolutely live in the same sphere. Are you open to that possibility today? Because if you're not, then you're saying basically you have a narrow mind. Religiously, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, George Eliot is saying, you know, you're not paying attention. Anais Nin said this: we don't see things as they are, but as we are. It's an old Jewish proverb as well. We don't see the world as it is, but we're looking through a set of filters, through a set of belief systems that is the context and is forming that which we are seeing. Basically, what is being said there is we see what we expect to see. Ever notice that people who are looking for a reason to be angry always find it? People who are looking for a reason to be happy will always inevitably find it. It doesn't matter what you're looking for in life. If that context and the lens is looking for whatever it is, you are basically going to find it, and the universe is going to provide it. By law, by spiritual law, what you are putting out from your mind and from your heart is going to show up in your field of experience. Whether it's true or not makes no difference, because you're attracting it. You're the director, the producer, and the star of your great movie. You're attracting exactly the players that you need. And I believe that we are seeking out, most of us from a human standpoint, seeking out information in a way that will likely confirm our bias, our preconceived perception of the way life is supposed to be. Have you ever noticed that? I think as spiritual beings we're called to be a little bit more awake, a little bit more conscious, and to confront these ideas. They say in science, behavioral scientists call it confirmatory bias. Confirmatory bias. I expect Ray to show up a certain way. That's the way Ray's going to show up. And that's the only thing I can see about how Ray. So we're all walking around. How do you know? How do you know if you've got a confirmatory bias at all? How many of you are breathing? How many of you have a pulse? It comes with the territory of being a human being. Stuff is going to happen. And we are called to use other eyes when we're navigating the landscape of the human experience. What we are seeing depends mostly on what we are looking for. You know, here's an idea. No two people have met the same you ever. No two people have met the same you. Oh, they have met you through the lens of their context, through the lens of their belief system about you, but they're not seeing you the same way. No two people have met me the same way. No two people. Have you ever gone to a movie? Have you ever gone to a movie and one person sitting in this seat will think it's the greatest movie ever made by Hollywood, and this person will say, that was a load of crap, I can't wait to get out of here. It's the same movie, sitting relatively in the same place in the theater, two completely different experiences. Is anybody wrong in that equation? In this paradoxical universe, how arrogant is it to say, no, it was the best movie, and now I'm going to fight to defend that it was the best movie ever, or it was the worst. How in the world could you think it was such a good movie? We live in a movie. Life is one big giant movie, an illusion, a film that's playing, and it can be changed at any minute by changing the film that's playing. But how do you change the film? By first changing, being willing to look with different eyes, to look with deeper eyes, and to realize that everybody's experience is valid at one level or another. It is valid. And until we are willing to open ourselves up to a greater possibility that maybe our context is blinding us from somebody else's opinion, there's going to be war on the planet. Every war started with an argument of perspective. Mine, a claiming of my opinion, my truth, my valid truth, and your invalid truth. You're wrong, I'm right. You ever notice that is pretty much rampant in our society? It's going to be the downfall. A house divided against itself, the master teacher said, will fall. So we get to be the spiritual people who are big enough, humble enough, vulnerable enough to say, let me shut down the neener machine, the monkey mind that says you're wrong, and to find a deeper way. The level of my soul, the level of my spirit can open up a possibility that maybe two truths can exist within the same sphere. That's easy, isn't it? Isn't that easy to do? Am I the only one that finds that really, really challenging? No two people are reading the same article, reading the same newspaper, reading the same book, and no two people are having the same experience of you. That's beautiful. I love that. It's what makes the world go around. And if we're not careful and we fall asleep, it's what will cause more war, more argument, more not speaking to each other for 20 years. Perhaps we can be the change that we want to see on the planet and open up that maybe there's a different way to look at it. Let me put somebody else's shoes on for a minute. Let me put somebody else's mindset on for just a moment and discover that there might be something bigger happening here. If we're ever going to return to oneness, we must understand that we live in a paradoxical universe and give up any notion that our way is the only way. Religiously, politically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And to look at things with the idea that my way is the only way leads to defensive postures. And defensive postures lead to argument, and the Buddhists will tell you that argument is a state of suffering. So if you are suffering today, I'm asking you to consider that there might be something that wants to shift inside of you. And anybody is going around and saying, I'm suffering because this person doesn't agree with me, or this person doesn't show up the way they're supposed to show up, this person doesn't show up by my expectations. You are the cause of your suffering, not the other person. And perhaps you can flip a switch in your mind to be able to look with different eyes. You know, we hear all the time, haven't you heard it? It's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of perspective. Do we really get that? Do we really, really get that? That every experience you're having, every relationship you're having, every situation in your life is only a matter of perspective. It's not truth. It is relative movie screen truth on the relative plane of existence that's changing all the time. What is the cause of suffering is the mindset that you are bringing to it, the lens that you are bringing to it. Everything you see out here is only a reflection of that which you are looking through. So what causes us to have these formative, confirmatory biases? What is it that happens? What is causing that? What is the root cause? Because in unity, we talk about getting to the root. You got to pull the weed up by the root, or it's going to come back. Look at your BS, your belief system. You got BS going on, you got a belief system going on, and we fight to defend our belief system. And it's easy to point fingers at the people who are really blatant about their belief systems, but maybe not quite as easy to the subversive undercover belief system that you're holding that says, this person's wrong, this person's bad, this person is not the Christ. Many paths, one God, just not that one. Everybody is the expression of the Christ. Everybody's beautiful and wonderful, just not that person, or that person. You've got a belief system that needs to be looked at, a context that needs to shift, a perspective that needs to be addressed. How about your history? We've all got history. You know, Josh Billings, this is a quote Josh Billings had to say. Let's put that quote up there, Wes. Let's read it together. There are lots of people who mistake their imagination for their memory. Anybody know anybody who's got a selective memory? Not you, of course, just the people in your family, yeah? I come from a long line of people who have selective hearing, or selective seeing, or selective memory. And I have to resist the urge that their memory of what happened 10 years ago is wrong and mine's right. I have to be willing to suspend that, because here's a reality. Everybody on the planet is suffering with the malady of selective seeing, selective hearing, and selective memory. Our imaginations go crazy and we create stories. We are designed to be story-making machines. Anybody have a story besides me? You've got hundreds of them. There's hundreds of stories playing, and guess what? With those stories playing, you are magnetizing to you the people that are going to go, really? Is that the story you want? Those who are looking for a reason to be angry will find it. Those that are looking for a reason to be joyous will invite it into the movie and either have heaven or hell. Guess who the director, producer, and star of that show is? You, not anybody else. We see what we want to see. It's not that any one of us, is intentionally blocking a different perspective. You know, it's easy to say, they just won't see it. They just won't see it. Spiritually, they can't see it. Because at the subconscious level, there is a block that's been put into years and years and years of rehearsing the story, years and years and years of rehearsing the victimhood, that the block has been so put in there that they're trying to see the other perspective, but they can't. Have you ever met a brick wall? An emotional, mental brick wall? How you respond to the brick wall is intentionally creating your future. How you respond to the person who cannot see, as wrong, as bad, as evil, as stupid, is affecting your future because you're creating a story in that now moment. We teach in Unity, that which we resist will persist. When you come up against a wall, somebody who just won't budge, who cannot see your perspective, and you know that yours is right, there's a great mirror happening there. There might be something to look at on the inside. That person is not in your movie by accident. Pause, breathe. What needs to happen in me? What's missing from this situation? One of the greatest questions to ask is, what's missing here? And the expectation that somebody else is supposed to bring what's missing is a great cop-out. The expectation that the wall is supposed to be the one that's making the shift is a great cop-out. This is what Jesus has to say. I'm going to jump ahead, Wes. I'm moving all over the place. It's the last quote. In the book of Matthew, chapter 5, please read this with me. If all you do is love the lovable, do you expect a bonus? Anybody can do that. If you simply say hello to those who greet you, do you expect a medal? Any run-of-the-mill sinner does that. In a word, what I'm saying is grow up. I love that Jesus is telling us to grow up. This is the Message Bible, and that's exactly what he's saying. Let's continue. You are kingdom subjects. Now live like it. Live out your God-created identity. Live generously and graciously toward others, the way God lives toward you. It says in Scripture that the rain falls on the just and the unjust alike. The rain is falling upon the brick wall just as it is falling upon you. The good is present at the point of the brick wall just as it is present at the point of you. Be the one that sees beyond the wall, that sees beyond the veil, that sees beyond the perspective that you just cannot understand, and go underneath the wall. Find the Christ. Find the love. Find the light because it is there. And if you can't find it, get up tomorrow and look again. Don't give up, because you're going to eventually, if you give up, you're going to make a statement and a judgment about the wall that now is becoming a part of your future. It's acceptable to judge a wall. By the very context of our religious movement, unity movement, is we cannot and will not make exception to where we find the face of God, even if it's on the other side of a wall. And we simply and will not make exceptions to where we find the face of the God when we are being the wall. Anybody else live as a wall here? There's somebody in your life, and you represent the wall. Doesn't that suck? You are somebody's wall. They don't understand you. They don't get you. And so we are at some level are fighting for our individual perspective. And when we're willing to look a little bit deeper, to look with spiritual eyes, we can discover possibilities that weren't there when we're only looking at the wall. Look beyond the veil. Yes? So how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we change it when we find ourselves in the middle of that growing conflict, that dichotomy? The world looks very dualistic, doesn't it? On the relative realm of existence, they're against me. They're against me. And we build this magnificent prison around ourselves to protect ourselves from being hurt. which is a clear indication that we're living at a relative movie screen of existence. We've put ourselves into the movie, and we've defined everything by the movie. Spiritually, we are called to define ourselves by something greater than the movie, the projector. Go back to source, go back to the projection, and go, I can shift this. By simply one little shift, I can change it. You know, I was asked, when I was in Sacramento, there was the Organist Guild. And I had a very successful music ministry in Sacramento. And I was in a church where pipe organs were being played. We brought in the drums and everything else. And the Musicians Guild, the Organists Musicians Guild, asked me to come speak, which made no sense to me because it was like inviting a wolf into the pen with sheep. And I was blown away. And they said, what are you doing? Your church seems to be growing, and ours isn't growing. And I had to really blatantly tell all of these wonderfully talented organists that if you could make 1 degree of shift in your congregation, why would you not do it? That all I do is listen to the congregation, listen to the culture, listen to the environment, and make just a slight shift. Take myself out of my comfort zone for just a minute and a slight shift. That is the only reason that my church is growing and yours isn't. Because you're entrenched on the organ bench, not willing to play anything but Bach. Well, the world is changing. You ever notice that change is the inevitable thing that happens every single day? And the human ego does not manage change very well, do we? We get entrenched. You want to know if you have a conformative bias inside? Something shifts, something changes, somebody shows up differently, and you're in anxiety about it. You're not showing up the way I've always expected you to show up. Why not? This is the way you're supposed to be. I'm growing, but you have to stay safe in your box. A clear indication. Now, let me tell you, there were a lot of organists sitting in that meeting that wanted to throw me out on my butt. They didn't get it. 3 organists came to me a year later and said, what you said to me made all the difference. My church is growing again. I added a guitar. An organist playing with a guitar. They drew the line at drums. That was not going to happen in those churches. And they said, all we did was change one thing by having a guitar play with the organist, and suddenly people were coming back home. Those who were entrenched in their opinion never grew, and those churches eventually ended up dying. So, how do we make a shift? How do you make a shift? I always like to say that the quality of the experience will be determined by the quality of your questions. What kind of questions are you asking? Here are some questions I wrote down. How could they be feeling that way? Now, it's important. How you phrase that is really important. How in the world could they have come to that conclusion? No. It's sincere looking and questing for the light. Let me put your shoes on. How could they have come to that opinion? And when we understand their history, we begin to understand the conservative bias that they're bringing to the table. Just a little bit. My mother-in-law used to say all the time, walk a mile in my moccasin shoes before you judge me, before you make me wrong. She didn't live that as well as I would have liked, but she taught me how to do it, and I understood my mother-in-law at a much deeper place when I was able to wear her moccasins, her shoes, and put on her mindset and go, I get it now. It took a slight shift in perspective. People are changing all the time in your environment. And if you're not willing to make a shift in your perspective, your opinion, your judgment, you are on a quick road to suffering. Plain and simple. We need to be like water, like the willow tree, and mold and move like the wind with all that is happening in this world, and know that we don't have to lose ourselves to do so. It's not about giving something up. It's about opening up another element of yourself. A new possibility can emerge. So here are some questions that I like to ask. How could they be feeling this way? How can this situation be turned around? What options do I have available to me? The human ego will say, option A, option B, fight or run. You might as well go back to being cavemen and cavewomen. Fight or flight is a quick road to stagnation and more war. There are other options, and we were created in the image and after the likeness of creativity itself. Use your imagination for something positive and go, I don't know what it is right now, but I'm going to tap into that infinite Christ of my own being, my own soul, to say, there are options I'm blind to right now. And then your confirmatory bias is going to come up. Am I willing to look at it? If you're on a spiritual path that's growing, you're willing to look at it. If you're not, you're going to go, nope, let's fight. Or let's run away from each other and never speak to each other again. Other questions. How am I experiencing myself in this moment of disagreement? You know, we're so quick, the human mind is so quick to be putting all the energy to the other person when you're in disagreement. The good question to ask is to return home. As a prodigal son, what do I have to clean up within me? How am I experiencing myself with the red face that's coming up? With the heart rate that is going really, really fast? And the thoughts of attack and how to win this argument are coming up. How am I experiencing myself? And what is the emotion behind it? What is the cause behind it? Fear? Is it fear? Is it pain? Is it judgment? Is it love? Is it compassion? Boy, really good questions to ask. What is the root cause of my reaction in this now moment? Let me tell you, when fear and judgment are driving the bus, you are limiting the field of possibilities. And you're taking step after step after step to a place of hell. Plain and simple. When fear and judgment are driving the bus of your life, no matter how difficult it is out here, it's driving the bus on the inside. The field is narrowing. Only one choice, confirmatory bias, recognized, acknowledged, and validated. I'm right again. And I'm living in hell. I'm alienating myself from all the beautiful potpourri of existence that is the human race. When love and compassion and understanding is looking at that which is standing under the experience. It's not looking at the movie, it's looking at the spiritual reality underneath. When it's driving the bus, the field becomes expansive. And if you can sit in that energy long enough, suddenly the peripheral vision begins to expand. Oh, there's an answer over here. There's a solution over here. There's a way of thinking I never thought of. But we must be first the cause of that reality by living in the energy of love when everything within us wants to pull their hair out. We must be the energy of compassion when the human ego wants to scratch their eyeballs out or wants to scream and yell and win. Do you want to be, Course in Miracles says it, we say it all the time, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? I don't know about you, but I'm ready for a lot more happiness in this world. I'm ready for a lot more happiness in our government. And I'm going to tell you, I go on Facebook and I see the horrible things that people at Unity North are saying to each other in the name of politics. I'll be honest, I'm embarrassed by it. We're attacking each other over politics, and we've forgotten the truth that we belong to each other. You and I are one. There is not separation here. Yet our words are belying a confirmatory bias that it has to be this way, or I don't love you anymore. Now, we have examples in this church that I'm very proud of. People that disagree politically and hug each other, love each other, and do not attack each other. The same is true with religion. We must look at those people that possibly hurt us in the past with a religious teaching and love them anyway. Because if we put them on the outside of our sphere of the face of God, we have a confirmatory bias that needs to be healed, that needs to be looked. Anything in your mind and in your heart that has created an energy of me and somebody else, me and something else, is a system of duality. It is a movie screen that is an illusion, and it is clear testimony that you got some healing to do on the inside. So that's your homework. I have homework. I like to give homework. I want you to, we're going around and we think we're so enlightened, and I'm guilty as anybody else. This is not preaching at you. I'm preaching to myself. Let me go around and find the people that will confirm my belief system. Let me go around and seek the people that will validate that my story is the right story. Let me go spend time in people that will just tell me everything's perfect and wonderful and you're the smartest person on the planet. That doesn't cause me to grow. Your homework is to go seek people who have a different opinion than you. Start small. Baby steps here. This week, I want you to go find somebody who has a different perception of something small. How about summer? There are people in this room that think summer in the South is the most wonderful time in the whole world. My perception as a Californian is, my God, could it get any hotter? Could there be any more sweat coming out of my body in this humidity? All my perception. I want to put myself in the shoes of a Southerner who loves that humidity and loves mosquitoes. I happen to love winter. I love winter, and I love rain. I have been happy as a clam with the rain that we're having, and there's no shortage of people that are going, oh, God, another terrible day. That's their experience. They're calling it, it's a terrible winter day. It's a terrible hot summer day. Find ways to try the shoes on. Find ways to just try some new clothes on and see if it's possible that you can behold the Christ even in the disagreement. In this paradoxical universe, go see a movie that you know you hate with somebody who said they love it, and then have a dialogue at the end and practice. Eventually, that mindset, when practiced, will seep into our political discourse. Eventually, that mindset will seep into the religious discourse. And eventually, it will have the healing properties of seeping into that relationship that you haven't spoken to for 20 years. The sister, the brother, the mother, the father, the person that wronged you 50 years ago. Oh, you're not even that old. We're holding on to souvenirs of hell, and the time has come to open up a corner of our mind, to flip a switch and go, there might be a different way to look at this. Maybe some entrenchment in me needs to be looked at. Kristen Armstrong will be my final quote. Let's go back to that quote, and let's read that together. Sometimes all it takes is a subtle shift in perspective, an opening of the mind, an intentional pause and reset, or a new route to start to see new options and new possibilities. Our master teacher, our way shower, our elder brother taught that, lived that. He says in the book of Matthew chapter 5, agree with thy adversary quickly. I don't like the word adversary too much. It's just agree with the person who sees differently than you. Agree quickly. Find a commonality. Find a space of harmony and balance and oneness, and be the one who's looking for it. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. You know, it's interesting, as I prepared the slides for this week, it was not intentional. They're all black and white. I usually have very colorful slides up there, and when I was talking to Diana about the slides, I went, wow, did you notice that? And she goes, yeah, I noticed that. I figured it was intentional. When we don't live intentionally, everything becomes black and white. Right, wrong, good, bad. Put a wall down the middle and let's separate ourselves. So that was not intentional. It was a moment of being asleep. And I looked at it and went, no, we're going to leave it that way. I'm asking you to add a little color to your life this week. To know that God is showing up with many, many different colors, many different textures. Let your imagination go wild. Expand the peripheral vision and look out, because possibilities for healing that you haven't even considered in this moment are about to unfold. We're going to go into a time of meditation right now. I'm going to invite you to open up a corner of your mind to a different possibility, to awakening, to a changing, to a shift, to letting your God essence to be kingdom beings, as Jesus said, to allow yourself to be fully and open with your mind, your heart, your soul, to a shift in something in your life today. Take a deep breath with me. As the lights begin to come down, I'm going to invite Cecilia to make her way up here to lead us in that meditation as we sing the song, I am awakening. I am awakening. One more breath. We are safe, and all is peace, all is God. Let us make the journey home together.